Chapter 1131. Test of Jingwei. Zhu Zheng readily agreed, and asked someone to call Mu Yan, and asked him to go to Shengjing, and he must obey any request of Zhang Yi along the way. Any request. Zhu Zheng said this order to Mu Yan meaningfully. Mu Yan seemed to understand something, and quietly clenched his fists, but when he looked at Zhang Yi again, he subconsciously straightened his chest that didn't exist. Zhang Yi was a little speechless, but he was too lazy to explain. The reason why Mu Yan was brought along was mainly because her shadow space could carry people. In this way, Zhang Yi could bring his whole family and go to Xingjing together. This would avoid the risk of Tianhai City being attacked when he was away. As for the people in the 3 major bases, Zhang Yi could only hope that they would have better luck, and he couldn't take care of so many people. Anyway, when he and his family were away, Tianhai City was basically unlikely to be attacked. Deng Shintong was also very happy to know that Zhang Yi agreed to go to Xingjing, and happily told Zhang Yi that when he went there, he could take Zhang Yi around to enjoy the scenery of the north. Zhang Yi did not comment on this. Compared to those, I want to know more about the intelligence of other regions. Can you help me get this? Deng Shintong scratched his head. Basic information is easy to get, but I guess you are most interested in the intelligence of Ypsilon in several regions. This is confidential. Zhang Yi shook his head. Give me as much as you can. It's better than nothing. He didn't want to waste time, so he discussed with Zhu Zheng and Deng Shintong about the date of departure for Xingjing. Xingjing set a time of 3 days later, so there was plenty of time. Zhu Zheng said, "We will leave from Blizzard City in 3 days. We will arrange everything. You just need to come." Zhang Yi nodded. Then it settled. After that, he got in the car, took Yang Xinxin, Hua, and the helper Mu Yan, who was just coming, and left Blizzard City. Mu Yan sat in the back seat of the car, feeling a little cramped and a little surprised. Zhang Yi took the initiative to ask Zhu Zheng for someone, which showed that she was valuable to Zhang Yi. This made it possible for her to leave Blizzard City and join Zhang Yi's team. The car left Blizzard City all the way. Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin didn't speak. After leaving a certain range, Zhang Yi suddenly stopped the car in a snowy field. He turned around and glanced at Mu Yan with a look of scrutiny in his eyes. "What did Zhu Zheng tell you?" he asked lightly. Mu Yan's hands on her knees clenched immediately, and she straightened her back. "Zhu Shuai just told me to obey all your orders. There is nothing else besides this." Zhang Yi nodded. "Is that so?" He turned his head and looked at Yang Xinxin. "Xinxin, do it." Mu Yan didn't know what Zhang Yi meant, and saw that behind Yang Xinxin, the Angel of Desire had already drawn his bow and arrow, and a red arrow was aimed at her. Mu Yan had seen Yang Xinxin's ability, so she knew very well that this arrow had no lethality to people, but it could make people become Yang Xinxin's slaves and obey all her orders. Mu Yan pursed her lips, knowing that this was the only way to gain Zhang Yi's trust, and she had no right to resist. So she calmly accepted the arrow shot into her forehead. Soon, she became Yang Xinxin's most loyal slave, looking at Yang Xinxin with an obsessed face. Without Zhang Yi saying anything, Yang Xinxin began to interrogate Mu Yan. "Tell me, what orders did Zhu Zheng give you for this operation?" "Follow Zhang Yi and obey all his orders completely." "Is that all the orders?" "Yes." Zhang Yi looked at Yang Xinxin and smiled. "Zhu Zheng is not stupid. He knows what the consequences of offending me will be." Even without Yang Xinxin's ability, Zhang Yi would inject Mu Yan with truth serum to verify her loyalty. Yang Xinxin nodded and continued to ask, "Do you want to leave Blizzard City?" Mu Yan nodded without any hesitation. "Yes." "Why?" "Because if I stay, I will definitely become the nutrients of Zhiyu. I was born for this purpose. They told me that it was my mission. But I don't want to die, I want to live." Yang Xinxin asked, "So your purpose of getting close to Zhang Yi is for this?" "Only Zhang Yi has the ability to protect me, so I want to stay by his side and get his protection." Yang Xinxin glanced at Zhang Yi, and suddenly a bad taste appeared in her eyes. She showed a small tiger tooth and smiled evilly. "How do you evaluate Zhang Yi?" Zhang Yi couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Damn, this question is so direct. He stared at Mu Yan, wanting to see how this woman would evaluate him. This way, we can see her attitude towards Zhang Yi and whether she is worth the income team. Mu Yan glanced at Zhang Yi and said calmly, smart, overly cautious, and powerful. In the end times, he is a man worth relying on. Zhang Yi was a little flattered. If he didn't believe in Yang Xinxin's ability, he would even think that Mu Yan was deliberately flattering him. However, the faint smile at the corner of his mouth still revealed his the pride in his heart. No one doesn't like flattery. Yang Xinxin grinned and said, is that all? No negative comments. Mu Yan continued, I haven't been in contact with him for a long time, so I don't know much information. If I have to say, then being cold-blooded and ruthless to outsiders and not having the qualities of a strong man should be considered a disadvantage. But I think these characteristics are extremely rare in the end times, and they can't even be considered disadvantages. Zhang Yi's mouth corners rose higher and higher, and he nodded in agreement, sighing, I didn't expect that she actually understands me so well. Yang Xinxin originally wanted to tease Zhang Yi, but unexpectedly, Zhang Yi's image in Mu Yan's eyes was so bright. But this is no wonder. Zhang Yi is a strong man, the #1 master in the Jiangnan region. When most people look at him, they will have a strong filter. If she gets along with Zhang Yi for a while, she will find that Zhang Yi snores when he sleeps, cheats when he loses games with Fatty Sue, and never cleans his bedroom. Zhang Yi looked at Yang Xinxin. I think this girl has great potential. We can consider letting her join the shelter. Yang Xinxin looked at Zhang Yi with a strange expression. Brother, what potential do you mean? Although Mu Yan's figure is a bit flat, whether it is her fair skin or delicate face, or her charming silver hair after the mutation, or the mysterious feeling brought by the black eye mask on her eyes, it is easy to give men enough charm. Zhang Yi said lightly, in all aspects. Xinxin, don't think too much. I am a gentleman. Chapter 1132 Shadow Space. Yang Xinxin curled her lips, and she was a little resentful of Zhang Yi's words. She whispered, sometimes, you don't have to be too upright. Soon she raised her head, stared at Mu Yan, and asked the last question. If you join our team, are you willing to be loyal to Zhang Yi and the team? Mu Yan thought for a second and gave her answer. As long as the team can give me safe shelter and ensure my survival, I will do my best to protect the team. Naturally, I will also offer my loyalty to the leader of the team, Zhang Yi. Yang Xinxin and Zhang Yi looked at each other. Yang Xinxin nodded. It seems that she is very good. Zhang Yi also nodded. I think so too. It is worth accepting, but Xinxin, is it possible that your ability is ineffective on some people? Yang Xinxin smiled and said, even for the Tianlong king of the Ypsilon realm, my ability can work. Not to mention her. Zhang Yi silently took out a needle of truth serum from the alien space. But I like double insurance. So, after injecting the truth serum into Mu Yan, the two repeated the previous questions. Only at this time can we confirm that what she said is true. In fact, before this, Zhang Yi believed 70% to 80% of Mu Yan. The reason is simple. He is strong enough. It is a better choice to follow him than to follow Zhu Zheng and wait for him to be nourishment in the future. It's just that he has always been cautious, so he still chooses to take a few more layers of insurance. Until now, he really believed in Mu Yan. However, he still needs to conduct a more in-depth investigation of her before deciding whether to ask Zhu Zheng to bring her over. Zhang Yi quickly returned to the shelter in Tianhai City. He summoned the whole family to the living room as soon as possible. When everyone saw this scene, they knew something had happened. Generally speaking, Zhang Yi would not summon the whole family unless he encountered a special and major matter. Zhou Kuer and others saw that Mu Yan also followed, and they couldn't help but be curious. Zhang Yi, what happened in Blizzard City again? Zhou Kuer asked with concern. Everyone also asked. Uncle Yu shook his shoulders, and there was an impulse in his eyes. He had been resting at home for more than half a year. Now that his strength has finally improved, he is eager to help Zhang Yi and do something. Fatty Su looked worried, holding up his big face, afraid that there would be something risky for him to do. Zhang Yi directly told everyone the whole story. Xinjiang has issued a call to the 5 major regions, requiring the top aliens in each region to go there to solve a problem that is giving them a headache. I plan to go over and take a look at the situation. Zhou Kur frowned slightly and said with some concern, "Isn't Xinjiang the most powerful region in Huashu country? How dangerous it would be if they can't even solve the problem." Zhang Yi smiled and put his arm around her shoulders. "Don't worry," I said. "I'm just going to take a look at the situation. If things are really dangerous, I have my own way to escape." In the entire Huashu country, Zhang Yi ranks second in the ability to escape, and no one should dare to rank first. Zhou Qir nodded. "That's good." Lu Karen's eyes revealed a hint of depression. "I don't know how long it will take for you to come back after you leave." Zhou Haimei also said worriedly, "Yes, when you are not around, I always feel uneasy." The attack of the Dragon King brought them a huge shock, allowing them to see that ordinary people are as weak as ants under the attack of top aliens. That kind of horror is like a natural disaster, and mortals can only passively bear it. Zhang Yi rubbed his hands and smiled slightly. "I have thought about this problem. To be honest, I am not very reassured to leave you here. That's why I brought her here." Zhang Yi looked at Mu Yan. "You are not unfamiliar with her. Mu Yan's ability can bring living people into her shadow space. So when the time comes, you can go to Xinjiang with me, walk around, and treat it as a trip. Even if you encounter danger, you can enter her shadow." Mu Yan's ability is a kind of attachment. As long as she is attached to Zhang Yi, she'll be absolutely safe if Zhang Yi is not in trouble. Everyone became excited when they heard this. Zhou Haimei slapped her thigh. "Oh, that's great. After the end of the world, we haven't left Tianhai City. Staying at home every day is good, but it's boring. It would be great if we could go out for a walk." Zhou Kuer and Yang Xia looked at Zhang Yi and said, "In this way, you don't have to go out alone when you get into trouble in the future. We can't help you at home, and we can only worry. No matter where you go in the future, we can be with you. Isn't this great?" Everyone was very happy. First, because they don't have to stay at home all the time. Second, they can be with Zhang Yi and help him. In the past, their strength was much weaker than Zhang Yi, so Zhang Yi didn't dare to take them with him wherever he went. But speaking of it, the family these people can provide great help to Zhang Yi. Whether it is Zhou Kur's healing ability, Yang Xia's ability to recover from supernatural powers, Lu Kuran's technological support, or Yang Xinxin's mind and ability to control the Angel of Desire. These people are all excellent assistants. If they can be brought around, Zhang Yi's worries can be solved. Zhang Yi smiled and said, "You can discuss this among yourselves. If you want to go out with me, then go. If you are too lazy to go out and want to stay at home, then stay and look after the house." Zhou Kur said coquettishly, "Anyway, I must go with you. I don't want to leave you for so long." Yang Xia hugged Zhang Yi's other arm. "Me too. I can help you make delicious food if I stay with you." Almost without any hesitation, everyone in the family decided to go out with Zhang Yi. Even the most timid and lazy fatty Su clamored to go out with Zhang Yi. After all, everyone left, and he didn't feel safe staying in the shelter alone. It's still more reassuring to stay with Zhang Yi. Zhou Haimei looked at Mu Yan, who was sitting on the side and looked a little cold, and couldn't help asking the question in her heart. "Girl, there are so many of us. Can you take your special ability with you?" Taking so many people with you requires a very high level of shadow space. Because Zhang Yi takes a long time every time he goes out. It's not enough to just stuff people in, and you have to consider the problem of food, clothing, and shelter. Mu Yan sat upright, and her cold voice had a touch of sweetness. "Don't worry, I am also a captain after all. Although my space is not as good as Mr. Zhang Yi, it is still no problem to accommodate thousands of people." After that, she spread her shadow on the floor in front of everyone, turning it into a huge circle. "Everyone, please come in and take a look." After she said that, she took the lead and walked in. People stood in the middle of the circular shadow and slowly sank in. Chapter 1133 Farewell to the Frog. Zhang Yi took a sip of hot tea and walked in first. His ability has locked Mu Yan, so he is not worried about her using any tricks. After entering the shadow space, Zhang Yi found that it was not as dark as he imagined. This is a fairly large space, about the size of the entire Yunk Manor. There is solid ground under his feet. There is no moon above his head, but the ceiling is shining with a dark blue light. It is huge but empty. Just in the center of the shadow space, there is a huge double bed, and some clothes are thrown around randomly. Zhang Yi's eyes opened slightly. In addition to ordinary clothes, there are also many stockings and underwear scattered on the ground. Zhang Yi just took a look, and Mu Yan immediately walked over in a hurry and stuffed those clothes into the quilt. I live in a simpler place, Mu Yan deliberately said in a cold tone. Everyone followed in at this time, and they all sighed at the hugeness of the shadow space. Mu Yan was right. It doesn't seem cramped to accommodate thousands of people here. As a lower-level ability of Zhang Yi's ability, Mu Yan's shadow space has almost no combat ability. Strictly speaking, this is used to hide and store supplies. It's a bit simple, but it's not a big problem, Zhang Yi said lightly. We can find a way to add some housing and furniture here. There is no shortage of supplies in the shelter, and it's easy to solve. Lu Kuoran said, I will solve the housing problem. Although I can't get many big villas, simple housing can be done in minutes. Zhou Ke nodded and smiled. The conditions here are already very good. Everyone stayed in the shadow space for a while, and then went out. After all, it's too empty here, and there's nothing to see. After everyone went out, they began to pack up supplies, and all food and daily necessities were moved in. Housing and furniture were left to Lu Kuoran and Zhang Yi. Lu Kuoran used her ability to quickly build a batch of simple housing. Although it was a simple housing, it had all the facilities and was sturdy and durable. As for furniture, Zhang Yi swept almost all the large shopping malls in Tianhai City, and there was no lack of luxurious furniture. It was enough to just take out some. Fatty Sue and Uncle Yu were responsible for carrying. After Uncle Yu's training, although Fatty Sue has not lost much weight, his strength and endurance have improved a lot. Although he has been groaning and complaining about being tired, it is obviously much easier to move furniture than before. Others are happily preparing supplies for the trip, and they have obviously regarded this trip to Shengjing as a trip. Zhang Yi looked at a corner of the living room. The big chinchilla was sitting not far from the fireplace, playing with its beloved bone flute. Now, Zhang Yi still knows nothing about the origin of the big chinchilla. It is basically harmless to humans and animals and has become a favorite pet of everyone in the family. Although it has powerful supernatural powers, it is not good at fighting. Now everyone is going to Shengjing, and Zhang Yi is considering whether to take it with him. After all, the existence of the big chinchilla is a secret to Zhang Yi, and he doesn't want others to know this news. After thinking about it, Zhang Yi decided to take it with him. After all, it is not good to leave it alone here. But before leaving, he decided to say hello to others. At the 3 major bases, Zhang Yi quickly notified them to be alert during this period and to notify him immediately if any incident occurred in Tianhai City. Then he walked out of the shelter and came to the Lu River in front of Yunk Manor. Zhang Yi came to the riverside. The thick ice was as hard as metal, but a few dozen meters away from the shore, there was a piece of ice with a very light color. Zhang Yi walked over and knocked on the ice. Not long after, a huge frog crawled out from under the ice. Zhang Yi pulled away for a certain distance, and the frog shook hard, and the mud on its body fell off. Quack. Zhang Yi, why are you here? Do you want to eat fish? Let me tell you, there are so many big fish in this river. I can't eat them all. Zhang Yi smiled and shook his head. No, thank you for your kindness. Frog, we have to leave for a while. The frog was stunned for a moment when he heard this. Quack? Where are you going? Are you away for a long time? There was a trace of reluctance in his eyes. During the past 6 months, he and Zhang Yi and others have also developed a deep relationship, especially with the big chinchilla. The 2 guys who do not speak the same language have become the best confidants through music. Without the big chinchilla, his recorder solo will become lonely and cool. Zhang Yi thought about it and smiled. It shouldn't be too long. But it's hard to say. Quack. I know, I will wait for you here. You should know that frogs hibernate. As long as I close my eyes, I can sleep forever. But as long as you come back, just tap the ice lightly, and I will wake up immediately. So I will always wait here for you to come back, my friend. Zhang Yi smiled. Frogs are always so likable. It seems that there are no worries in its world, and it always remains optimistic about everything. By the way, there is one more thing I think I should tell you.
The frog suddenly said.
Zhang Yi blinked. Huh? What's the matter? The frog opened his arms, revealing his round belly. That is, music can open people's hearts, and you can hear things that speech cannot express. Zhang Yi hugged his arms. You should know that I don't know much about music. I can only listen. And for me, as long as it sounds good, it is good music. The frog shook his head. No, I don't want to discuss this with you. I want to say that through the music, I can feel the heart of the big Totoro. He covered his chest, closed his eyes, and said, I can feel that it is very lonely in its heart and confused about this world. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. This frog is probably suffering from literary youth disease, and Zhang Yi is too lazy to be hypocritical with others. Yeah, you're right. That's it. See you later. The frog jumped, quack. When I wake up, we will meet again. Zhang Yi stretched out his hand to say goodbye to the frog. In the next 3 days, the whole family was very excited about their rare trip, so they decorated their future residence, Muyan Shadow Space, very gorgeously. Zhang Yi was shocked when he saw it, because it was a huge and gorgeous manor. There were so many talented people in the house, and it was decorated with lights and colors. There was everything in it. Even artificial turf was laid to create a huge yard. Water was introduced to make an artificial lake, and some shallow sea fish were even thrown into it with interest. Zhang Yi was also stunned and thought, you guys really know how to play. This also highlights a problem from the side. Everyone has been holding back for too long. Although it is safe at home, people always like to go out and see the animals in the distance. Chapter 1130, For Crow. 3 days later in the morning, Zhang Yi brought everyone to Blizzard City. Zhu Zheng, Deng Xintong, and others were all ready, just waiting for Zhang Yi's arrival. How to get there? Is there an underground tunnel from Jiangnan District to Shengjing District? Zhang Yi asked. Zhu Zheng smiled and said, that is too slow. We have better means of transportation. As he said that, he brought Zhang Yi and others to the airport in Blizzard City. It was a huge aircraft cabin. After entering the door, a very strange machine appeared in front of Zhang Yi and others. The plane looked extremely unique because it had no wings, only a huge cabin, and a jet engine was hung under the fuselage. From a distance, it looked like a giant gray-white cigar. This is the means of transportation you are using this time, Zhu Zheng said to Zhang Yi and others with a smile. When Lu Karen saw this peculiarly shaped machine, her eyes suddenly lit up, and she stared at the plane and watched it carefully. Fatty Sue muttered, did you forget to install the wings of the plane? Uncle Yu rolled his eyes at him unhappily. What do you know? This is a military aircraft, using the most advanced technology in Huashu country. The wings are usually removed and only installed when in use. Deng Xintong explained to Zhang Yi, this is the latest jet aircraft, produced in Fremons in the north. They have always been at the forefront of the world in the military industry, and their weapons are the best in the world in terms of cold resistance. After the end of the world, many large military equipment have been eliminated because they cannot adapt to ultra-low temperature environments. Like this F-37, it is a transport aircraft that can fly at high speed in ultra-low temperature environments. Deng Xintong was accompanied by several members of the Tianjin team. He did not make a big fuss on this trip and seemed very low-key. Probably because he was clear about his status, he was mainly accompanying Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi never liked to be in the limelight, so of course he had to keep a low profile. After Zhang Yi and others said goodbye to Zhu Zheng, they got on the plane. Until the plane took off, Fatty Sue and others were still panicking, fearing that this wingless plane would fall. However, their worries were unnecessary. The F-37 quickly took off and flew towards the north at high speed. Fatty Sue squinted at Uncle Yu, with a playful look on his face. Uncle Yu, didn't you say that the wings were installed later? Uncle Yu blushed. Technology is changing with each passing day, and I don't know everything. He wanted to pretend in front of Fatty Sue, but he didn't expect to be slapped in the face. Uncle Yu looked at Fatty Sue and suddenly laughed. Fatty Sue understood immediately, and he had a bitter face. Uncle Yu, I was wrong. We're going on vacation. Please don't give me more training. Zhang Yi looked out the window, and frost had formed around the thick window glass. Even the most advanced cold-proof materials are difficult to be completely unaffected at high altitudes. The clouds in the sky were cold and white, with thick dark clouds and heavy snow falling down, as if the end of the world would never end. After the end of the world, Zhang Yi went to the north for the first time. He had been to Shengjing, but he was just there for vacation at that time, and there was another time. Zhang Yi smiled faintly, and he couldn't help feeling a little weird when he thought of that time. Because he was traveling in Shengjing with Fang Yuqing at that time.
He was still very simple at that time.
He had also loved someone sincerely and longed for a beautiful future. But now, a year and a half has passed since the end of the world, and Fang Yuqing also died on that cold and harsh day. Everything feels like a century has passed, and things have changed. Zhang Yi leaned on the comfortable sofa and closed his eyes slightly. Everything is unknown in Shengjing, and they just have to see what is waiting for them. Zhou Qi came to him and asked gently, Zhang Yi, are you feeling uncomfortable? Zhang Yi covered his face with his hands and said slowly, it's okay, I'm just a little sad. He just remembered at this time. Fang Yuqing never liked him. Seeing this, Zhou Qi gently hugged Zhang Yi, put his head in front of her, and wrapped him with her warm bosom. The plane quickly passed under the dark clouds and flew towards the huge city in the north. Northern border, Shengjing. As the capital of Huashu country, this huge city is like a sleeping dragon, lying on the northern land. The snow-white ice field is now the main color of the vast land, while the huge Shengjing brings a deep bright yellow to the land. The main color of Shengjing is bright yellow, which represents royal power and dignity in recent dynasties. Therefore, in Shengjing, tall buildings in ancient style and complete palace complexes can be seen everywhere. Shengjing has a city within the city, and there is also the Minghuang city within the outer city. Compared with other regions, Shengjing has the most resources and military power. It also supports the largest population. This may be related to the fact that they were the first to find the Yuan mine under the Qinling mountains after the end of the world. The abundance of energy allows them to feed a large population, including some civilians outside the Minghuang city. Shengjing is particularly lively today. The Ming Imperial City is heavily guarded everywhere. The Longming Guards are armed with live ammunition and can be seen in every corner. Because today is the day when Shengjing District convenes the 6 major forces of the entire Huashu Kingdom to discuss state affairs. They must show their strongest side to maintain the majesty of Shengjing District so that the other 5 districts will surrender. In order to show enough sincerity, the person responsible for receiving them is also the real power figure in Shengjing, the general of the Longming Guards, Xidagarba Shang Dawen. He is wearing a white special military uniform. He is about 40 years old, which is the most perfect age for men in terms of physical strength, wisdom, and emotional intelligence. Shang Dawen can become the leader of the Longming Guard, the most important force in Shengjing, not only because he has powerful power, but also because of his cautious and introverted temperament. Early this morning, he came to the main gate of Ming Imperial City and began to arrange the reception. It is imperative to ensure that the 5 major districts will not feel overbearing, and the majesty of Shengjing District must be guaranteed. The first force to arrive in Shengjing came from the northeast. The Longming Guards guarding the city were on duty when they suddenly discovered a large black cloud emerging from the horizon, spreading from the horizon toward Shengjing. The command center of the Longming Guards immediately used satellites to conduct reconnaissance, and only then did they see clearly that the black cloud was actually a large group of crows. It was a group of huge crows with scarlet eyes. Usually only crows that have eaten corpses would have such eyes, and their bodies were several times larger than ordinary crows, like small goshawks. The dark wings were like cast iron, emitting a faint cold light. Thousands of crows circled in the air, making ominous calls. Quack quack. Northeast region, Ypsilon-level alien Liu Ye Daoju and Han Shanzhua. Chapter 1135 King of the Northwest. The people from the northeast region arrived in Shengjing first. The leader, Han Shanzhua, looked so cool that everyone on the Shengjing city wall was stunned. He didn't look like a powerful Ypsilon alien, but a biker who liked to race at midnight. The modified Harley snowmobile rumbled towards Shengjing city, followed by a group of cars from the northeast region. Shang Dawen smiled and led people to greet them. However, looking at the overwhelming crows, Shang Dawen couldn't help but twitch the muscles on his face. I don't know what Han Shanzhua likes, but Shengjing doesn't want so many ominous birds to fly over. Unlucky. However, when Han Shanzhua arrived at the gate of Shengjing, he got off the motorcycle, and the crows in the sky flapped their wings, turning into black smoke in the air, and then disappeared strangely. He carried a blood-colored crow on his shoulder, took off the big frog glasses on his eyes, and walked slowly and arrogantly to Shang Dawen. Northeast region. Liu Daojun is here. Han Shanzhua raised his eyebrows and said to Shang Dawen. Shang Dawen showed a smile in his eyes and politely extended his hand to lead the way. Thank you, for the Northeast region representative. Please go into the city and rest for a while. We have prepared a dinner tonight. When the representatives of other regions arrive, Qin Shuai will personally entertain you and discuss important matters. Han Shanzhua nodded, no problem. He waved behind him. Brothers, let's go. The Northeast region's convoy passed the security check at the main gate and drove into the city. Someone took them to the rest area. Not long after, the second group of people arrived. It was the people from the East China Sea region. The plane landed at the indoor airport. The jet plane had no wings, but it could hover like a helicopter and then slowly fall from the open roof of the airport. Shang Dawen led everyone to come. The cabin door opened, and the first person to come down was a woman wearing a light blue combat uniform with long flowing hair and a determined face. The representative sent by the East China Sea region is Suzaku. Xuanwu's body cannot leave the sea, and it is even more impossible for him to go to Shengjing to participate in the mission. But in order to express respect for Shengjing region, Suzaku, a representative of the army, was sent. In the 6 months since the end of the Qingdao mission, her strength has been greatly improved, and it has reached a height of 9,800 points. This is not without the efforts of the East China Sea region, but it is also related to another one of the four spirits. Qinling was severely injured after that battle, and his vitality was also sharply reduced. According to the doctor's inference, he may live for at most 5 years. This is the price that must be paid for forcibly obtaining power that does not belong to you. Shengjing certainly knew that Xuanwu could not come, but Suzaku's arrival was also a great respect. Therefore, Shang Dawen still warmly received them and arranged for them to rest first. Suzaku first asked Shang Dawen if anyone had arrived. After being told that only the Northeast region had arrived, she stopped. Suzaku looked up at Shengjing City, which was full of ancient atmosphere, but slowly shook his head at Shang Dawen. No, I'm waiting for someone. Shang Dawen raised his eyebrows, then smiled and said, Okay, go ahead. Zhu Ke gathered her clothes. She didn't leave, but waited here. She looked at the sky in the distance, waiting for that person to come. She waited for more than an hour. As a plane flew from the northwest and landed at the military airport in Shengjing, Zhu Ke slowly raised her head, and a strange light flashed to her eyes. The representative of the northwest region has also arrived. Shang Dawen brought people to greet the representatives of the northwest region. Compared with the previous greetings to Han Shanzhua and Zhu Ke, Shang Dawen's attitude was obviously much more solemn. It seems that this person from the northwest region has some special identity. In fact, it is indeed the case. Among the 6 regions of Huaxu country, Shengjing, Jiangnan, Donghai, Northwest, and Southwest, the highest commander and the strongest combat force in charge of one side are not the same person. But only the Northwest region is an exception. The strongest person in this region is a young talent from a military family. After becoming an Ypsilon-level alien, he used his strong personal strength and tough tactics to ascend to the throne of the supreme commander of the Northwest region. Therefore, in the entire Huaxu kingdom, The position of the commander of the Northwest region is the most stable and the most stable in the region. In the Northwest region, almost all power is concentrated in the hands of one force, that is, the force of the Supreme Commander, Emperor Go-chun Li Changgong. The door of the cabin slowly opened, and Zhuge couldn't help but walk over, and his eyes looking at the cabin door became a little hot. A tall figure in military uniform appeared at the door of the cabin. It was a man about 35 years old, tall and straight, a little thin, but his figure stood like a javelin in the biting cold wind. He wore white gloves on his hands, and one hand was on the two long swords slung on his left waist. His face was like the best craftsman polishing it on steel with a carving knife, with a coldness that was intimidating without anger. Looking around, there was a kind of domineering aura that looked down on the common people. He really has this qualification, because looking at the entire Huashu kingdom, he may be the most powerful man. Northwest King, Li Changgong. When seeing Li Changgong, Suzaku's eyes became excited. Li Changgong lowered his head and saw her, and a faint smile appeared on his cold face. Shang Dawen stepped forward to express his greetings and gratitude to him. After all, as the king of the Northwest, Li Changgong was able to come here in person, which still surprised Shang Dawen.
Although
Xinjiang district is the strongest in Huashu country, not every district will give face to the summons issued this time. For the supreme commander of the Northwest district, whether he can put aside the affairs of the district and go there in person, the Xinjiang district was not clear at the beginning. Li Changgong nodded to Shang Dawen. I came here not only for the summons of Xinjiang district, but also for some personal matters. Shang Dawen was puzzled. Li Changgong has been in the Northwest all year round. Although he is also a child of a powerful family in Xinjiang, he has not had much intersection with Xinjiang after the end of the world. What personal affairs can there be? At this time, Li Changgong walked past him and walked toward Zhuge. Zhuge couldn't wait to walk over and shouted, "Brother?" Li Changgong nodded at her. "Xiao Han, how is your injury on Qingdao?" Zhuge, whose real name is Jiang Han. Jiang Han smiled and said, "It's almost healed." Li Changgong asked, "Is that guy here?" When he mentioned that guy, his eyes became sharper, with a terrifying murderous intent. Jiang Han took a deep breath. That guy has always been cautious. This time he may not come. Dear viewers, enjoy. Please subscribe if not already. Thanks.